So fun fact about me, I've actually been doing hybrid teaching now since October 2020. So I have a lot of tips, a lot of strategies, a lot of mistakes that I made, and also a lot of lessons I've learned, and some things that I absolutely got right the first time. So with that said, I am going to be sharing with you my top 10 tips for hybrid teaching. So if you're getting ready to make that transition back face to face, this video is for you. Keep on watching. Hi everyone, my name is Tierney, also known as Miss Tierney, and this is the #1 place where I help you build a culture of achievement in your classroom through easy to use classroom management strategies. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel, give this video a like, and engage with me in the comment section. I want to know from you from the beginning of this video, what exactly is the way that you are currently teaching? Are you hybrid, getting ready to go hybrid? Are you currently virtual teaching? Or are you purely face-to-face? I want to know. Leave a comment down below and let me know. So as I said, a fun fact about me, I've been doing hybrid teaching since October 2020. So I started with teaching students who are virtual and face-to-face at the very same time. In my district, we are doing something called concurrent teaching, or as they like to call it, they say simultaneous teaching. So I've been doing that for quite a while now, and I know some of you are getting ready to do the same. So I wanted to share with you some of my best practices and tips to help that transition for you go a little bit more smoothly. I also want to note that my school district is currently using Microsoft Teams, so that is the platform that we use for our virtual students. So let me go ahead and clarify a little bit for you. So I am teaching an entire group of students virtually and in person at the exact same time. I have live bodies in my classroom, and then I have a live body on the other side of a computer screen that I'm required to teach at the exact same time. This is not an easy journey. There are many things that I have learned along the way and done incorrectly. So that is why I'm excited to share these top 10 tips with you. So let's go ahead and get started right into tip #1. Tip #1 is keep it simple. What do I mean by that? Many of you, when you get ready to make that transition into the hybrid style of teaching, you will think about, okay, how am I going to be able to do this? This is very overwhelming. I'm not sure of what is the best approach. Now, you may have this gut reaction to maybe start to make copies and print things off and go back to thinking just because you have students who are going to be in your classroom live that you have to then really go back to the face-to-face model and utilize your lesson materials and resources the same way you did before. But that is one of the biggest misconceptions and something that I want you to avoid doing. Something that we told our students coming in when we started that transition in October is bring your laptops with you. This is going to be just as if you were virtual. You're going to bring your laptops, you're going to be present in the classroom, but it's going to be the same way. And also with, everything going on, we don't want to have a lot of paper passing around and touching and exchanging. So we do have students use their technology in the classroom with us every single day. So one of the tips that has best helped me is I use the same exact way that I was teaching virtually with my students who are in person. So for example, if I utilized a platform such as Pear Deck, which I do typically every day, then with me using Pear Deck, I also have my in-person students join the Pear Deck, my virtual students join that same Pear Deck, and I use that for the lesson. There is no let me go print off these paper copies and do a whole bunch of extra for my students just because they're face-to-face. I utilize the same process, and that has really helped to simplify things and make everything with the instruction part a lot more easy. The second tip that I want to give you is circulate. Circulate the room. Okay, so yes, like I told you, I was using Pear Deck, right? So I use Pear Deck. Both of my groups of students have joined into the Pear Deck, but I want to encourage you to circulate the room. Okay, so you have those students who are face-to-face and they're on the technology, but why am I telling you to circulate? Because that's a very proactive measure that you can use to prevent students who might get a little bit distracted and off task. Remember, these students have not been in a face-to-face learning environment for months. Some even now a year. So we really have to make sure that we're setting them up for success and also being very proactive as the teacher and making sure that students are remaining engaged with us. So even in a face-to-face classroom in a full traditional school year, you would be circulating around your room. You wouldn't be teaching from your seat, you would be teaching from your feet. So it's the same energy that you want to apply here. So when there's natural breaks in your lesson and maybe students are responding to something on your Pear Deck like mine, or doing some type of independent type of response, then that's a good time for you to circulate around the room. We want to just make sure that we're leaving whatever post we're at and making those rounds around our classroom. Listen, your students, they have been at home, okay? Some of them don't have accountability at their homes for various reasons, right? We understand that many of our students' parents and families are working other jobs and they may not be at home to monitor and provide supports to their child or to that particular student. But with that said, our students need some more support from us as the teacher as they make this transition back into the face-to-face classroom. So you want to make sure that you are getting up and circulating so that you can help redirect anyone who needs that additional support and assistance, because believe me, you will have some students who need that. So that brings me to my next point, which is establish your expectations from the beginning. So just like you would in a traditional school year, you would give your students the expectations for the classroom up front. You need to do the same thing, okay? Don't assume that just because you've been communicating with them virtual and building relationships with them and stuff that you can skip out on this part. You can't. You cannot skip out on this. This is very vital. So I want you to make sure that as your students are trickling back into the face-to-face environment, that you have a plan for your expectations and you have a plan for communicating those expectations. I just made a video all on that, so you can go watch it. And if you need further supports, I want to encourage you to join my Transform Your Classroom Management Today free 5-video mini course. The link is in the description below, because this is going to support you with making sure you are creating a productive learning environment so that you can effectively manage your class and make sure you are able to successfully create a culture of achievement in your classroom for your face-to-face students. The next tip is going to be to create an entry routine. So an entry routine is necessary for your virtual and your face-to-face students, right? So you've already had the virtual experience with creating an entry routine, whether that students join into your virtual class, they start working on whatever you have posted for them on your screen that you're sharing, what have you. The same energy needs to be applied to your face-to-face students. When you are greeting those students at your door, right, through the threshold strategy, you should be greeting your students at the door by name and reminding them of the expectations. You need to make sure that you are able to have your expectations posted with what exactly you want students to do as they enter into your classroom. What voice level should students be on when they enter into your classroom? What do you want students to have out as far as materials when they enter into your classroom? So I like to display this on my Clever Touch. I have one of those in my classroom. So how can you communicate those expectations to your face-to-face students, just like you should have been doing or would do with your virtual students as they enter into your lobby? My 5th tip for you is going to be to utilize a platform where you're able to see your students working in real time. I mentioned before that I like to use Pear Deck for this very reason. What other platform can you use that your virtual and face-to-face students can use together so that you can actually see students' work coming through in real time, so that you can make sure that any student who maybe is not with you, you're able to catch them before they continue opting out of your lesson and not participating, right? So when you're thinking about how can you make sure that both groups of your students are learning the content, are staying actively engaged, one proactive measure for you is to make sure that you do have a platform where you're able to see your students working in real time. Okay, my 6th tip for you is going to be to batch process your links. And what that means is, when you are trying to manage 2 groups at the same time, there's a lot going on, right? And even though we want to be proactive with making sure we are simplifying things, one other tip that I want to share with you that I have done is I batch process my links. So when I use Pear Deck, what I like to do is, since I teach 5 different classes, I have a separate Pear Deck code and link for each one of those classes. So I like to arrive to school early in the morning. So once I get there early in the morning, I go ahead and I start my Pear Deck lessons in instructor pace mode, and I get links for each one of my periods. Because just like I was saying earlier about making sure you have that entry routine, my code for my face-to-face students is posted on my Clever Touch. And the link for students just to click and join in is posted into my Teams meeting chat, so that my virtual students can join in. So in order to make the transition time in between my individual periods quick and to make it just less work on me, I batch process those links and pop them into my chat, or I make it on my daily routine slide. I have a Google slide that I have also display on my Clever Touch, and I have on there the code for each period. So I have a separate slide for each one of my periods, and then my Pear Deck code is posted there for them. So that's what I mean by batch processing links. It makes the transition in between each one of your classes much smoother and less stress on you. Okay, so my 7th tip is to make sure you are communicating with parents, okay? So make sure that you are covering your bases and communicating with parents, because you will, and you probably noticed this, you'll have students being like, oh, I wasn't able to get into your meeting, or oh, I wasn't able to find your assignment, or different things like that. But when you are making sure that you have all your ducks in a row, you're able to provide proof if needed when administration comes to you and asks you and approaches you about a certain situation. Because students will say things that maybe aren't true, and then administration will come to you and you can show proof that no, you did do X, Y, and Z. So that's why you want to make sure that you are communicating with parents so that they know if their student comes to them and says, oh, Johnny wasn't able to get into your meeting, you're able to show like, no, I did X, Y, and Z to make sure that Johnny had access to my meeting, or what have you. So the bottom line is make sure you are communicating with parents up front, because that can nip any kinds of excuses or any issues in the future. So it's just a preventative approach and makes your life easier. My 8th tip is to set boundaries with your parents. So building off the last thing, set boundaries with your parents. Listen, we don't work 24/7, 365. We have to self-care and take care of ourselves, right? So with that said, we want to make sure that our parents have an open door for communication with us, but at the same token, you do need to clearly communicate to them, hey, these are the times when I'm available and I will definitely get back to you between X, Y, and Z time block. Or you can expect a response from me within 48 hours on regular scheduled business days, right? So communicating those boundaries up front will help them to understand that you do value them and you want to communicate with them to best support their students' success. But at the same time, this is what I have in place for the reason of making sure that I'm able to best meet my needs and yours at the same time. Tip number 9 is to have an I'm done now what board. So I have this in my face-to-face classroom on my whiteboard. It says I'm done now what, and I'll typically tell my students to go to Imagine Math or go to another platform once they're done with the exit ticket that I have for them for the day. But the same with my virtual students. I have a I'm done now what. So I tell them, once you're done working on your exit ticket, you're going to move on to Imagine Math. Log into Clever and log on to Imagine Math and begin working until the period concludes, so that there is not a lot of time wasted. We want to maximize instructional time. It's already limited due to all this teaching 2 groups at the same time and all of that. So we want to just, again, as I've been saying, be proactive up front and make sure that you already have a way for students to know what exactly they should be doing when they're done. This will also prevent there being issues with misbehavior or off-task students. Tip number 10 is don't assume anything. Don't assume anything, okay? Don't assume that just because you're transitioning into this hybrid environment that your students are going to come in perfectly ready to work. As I said earlier in this video, some of our students have not been in a face-to-face classroom for over a year now. we do need to proactively set our students up for success. Part of our work as a teacher is creating a learning environment that is conducive to support students' academic success. That is why on my channel, I spend so much time talking about classroom management, because that is what helps to lay the foundation for our students to improve academically. Yes, this is a very unique school year and there has been a lot of challenges, but at the same time, we still want to hold our students to high expectations, but also provide the right supports to get them there. Because why did we become a teacher? One, obviously we care about our students' success, but also we want to make sure that we are providing them with a quality education. So with that said, we want to make sure that we're not assuming that our students are going to know how to do everything and that we don't have to spend time with our procedures, with our routines, with our expectations, how we want students to act when they step in our classroom environments. We have to set that groundwork foundation intentionally. And so with that said, I want to invite you to join the Transform Your Classroom Management Today free 5-video mini course. This is going to help you to establish a culture of achievement in your classroom, but most importantly, it will help you to be that proactive teacher that prevents any misbehavior or any off-task disruptions to the learning environment so that your students can ultimately receive a quality education, continue to learn and grow, to put them on a transformational trajectory for lifelong success. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you found this video helpful, give it a like. Comment down below what tip did you find most beneficial for you. Subscribe to my channel because there will be a bunch more videos. And if you know anyone who is transitioning into hybrid teaching, go ahead and share this video with them. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.